All right, so my philosophy note stuff that I did this morning, I screwed up, so I'm going to quickly try to do this again. So getting right into it, if we go to probably, one of the most famous, I guess like for my lineage philosophy book is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And so the second chapter of that book is really like the part that I have focused on trying to understand. And so because that one is on practice, and it's for a novice person, someone who's not ready like for meditation type stuff. So it's action yoga. And action yoga, Kriya yoga, it talks about how there's three pieces to it. So austerity, self-study, and surrender. And that this method of yoga, this action yoga, is for reducing and eventually burning up the kleshas, the seeds of the kleshas. So there are 5 kleshas. And I kind of just talk through this. So 2 of them are attraction or attachment, and then aversion. And so each of us, like our beings, are affected in a unique way by attachment or desire and aversion, the first 2 kleshas that I'm talking about. And so I kind of equate this with, this is like our conditioned existence, which is something that in the opening chant for the yoga that I practice, we talk about, removing the poison of conditioned existence. And so that conditioning is stored in those first 2 koshas, if, in my opinion. So the food body, the manomaya kosha, and then the energetic body, the pranamaya kosha. And I talked about these 2 koshas before. So the very outermost layer of our being, and then that next layer in. And so I feel like the physical asana part of yoga helps us with a certain kind of self-study here, to look at our unique conditioning. So then talking about that a little bit more, we go back to austerity, because it takes self-discipline, austerity, to endeavor to have like a daily practice, a daily paying attention to and working on dealing with our attachments and our aversions. So things that will slowly over time, you do this physical asana practice, and yes, you'll get more energy, and yes, you'll start to get more in touch with your intuition, all those things that I talked about before. And then it'll start to make you, feel better and be more encouraged to keep going. And you'll start changing like your habits with sleep, and what you eat, and what your priorities are in the world, and how you choose to socialize and spend your free time. And that seems to happen slowly, I think, over time, and to a manageable degree, because I think that chapter 2 of the sutras, and especially the yoga that I do, this lineage of Ashtanga yoga, that it is for householders. Krishnamacharya is like the, top of the lineage, the top of the teachers of this kind of yoga. And that's what his very top teacher, who was, a guy out in a cave, like completely removed from the world, that was his orders to Krishnamacharya, was to go out and teach, to get married, have a family, live in the world, and teach householders yoga. And so that's where that comes from. And so I think that the kind of yoga that we do in Ashtanga is unique in that, well, Yeah, because of the way we do it. We're bringing together the muscles, the joints, the nerves, the somatic nerves, so the nerves that are under our voluntary control to make our bodies move. Bringing that together with a part of the energetic body that we haven't talked about. And these are these things called nadis, and I'm not going to claim to know a whole lot about that yet. I can show you a picture of the nadis. So there are lots of them. Probably, you know, there some places they're given different numbers, but 72,000 of them, and they are, you know, that's a possibility. And they, similar to the nervous system, are a set of like interconnected channels for energy, for the prana to travel in. So our conditioning is what I think. So our conditioning of our physical body and our energy body, our emotions are included in that, and our sensory system is what gives us our body language. And that's, you can see that outwardly in a person, in how a person moves. And so going through physical postures, really like any hatha yoga, any of the physical asana yoga, you can see a lot about, you know, the differences in people in how their bodies move, and that has to do with, I think, with our conditioning. But so particular to Ashtanga yoga and the things that I've talked about thus far, so like the koshas, you know, well known in yogic circle, as are the vayus, but uniting those energy currents, so those 5 energy currents, you might remember this from a couple weeks ago, the upward energy current from the navel up to the nose, and then this downward current, apana, that's like a little somewhere around the belly button down, that's responsible for elimination. This one, and then there's the one in the head, and then there's the one surrounding. So I've talked previously about how Ashtanga method in particular, that we kind of pay attention to and unite all of those vayus, those energy currents. So if the nadis are channels, those channels are involved in currents. And then two, that by paying attention to lifting the pelvic floor and pulling the belly button toward the spine, I think I've finally put a formal term to that, the bandhas here, as well as our breathing. We're paying attention to even inhale and exhale. That is breath control. That's pranayama is what the formal term for that is. And then turning the senses inward is pratyahara, is another part of yoga. And so we're turning our vision and our hearing inward, that we can become aware, we can become more aware of our conditioning by paying attention to those parts of the energy body, as well as involving the autonomic part of our nervous system. So that flight or fight part and the rest digest part of our autopilot system that I talked about last week. So that part I think is unique to the method, the Ashtanga method of practicing asana.